Right, besties, as promised, a bit more of the Mattie story. We're very close to the end of the book now, peeps. The long hot summer passed slowly while Mattie dozed the days away and wandered over the garden in the early evening. She liked to walk along the double rows of broad beans, picking insects from the plants. She ate the slugs in the strawberry patch and the green fly in the mint bed. She kept the garden free of every kind of pest. The blackbirds knew her, and they sat on the clothesline watching her as she rooted in the grass under the apple trees or picked caterpillars from the broccoli. They saw her matronly figure stumping across the lawn to snatch the eggs from an ant's nest or to steal an occasional strawberry from under the nets. Sometimes they swooped down on Mattie's dish and stole her bread and milk. If she caught them doing this, she would advance on them indignantly and grunting loudly. She aged notably during the summer, and when September came she was glad to settle down early for her winter sleep. She carried a few treasures in the hutch, wrapped herself in hay, and slept deeply until the following spring. Picture. Mattie was in her 6th year. Her bristles were grizzled and lifeless. The wool on her lower jaw had turned white, and the long golden hair on her flanks had faded into a dirty yellow. Her sense of smell was still fairly keen, but her hearing was failing and she was nearly blind. That spring she did not hunt in the gardens. She regarded her bread and milk as her only food, and slugs and snails often crawled across the concrete surround of the house within a few feet of her, but she took no notice of them. When the woman called her name, she would waddle out of the hutch and shake her head confusedly as she tried to locate the sound. Sometimes she would even turn and wander off in the wrong direction. She liked to lay in the sun outside her hutch. She seemed to be constantly tired. At night she slept deeply. She was respected and feared by all the cats of the neighbourhood. Most of them had learned long ago that they were not welcome in Mattie's garden, and she soon frightened off the few that did dare to venture in. Sometimes Pinky would come into the garden at dusk, looking for food, with her children and grandchildren. Mattie would watch them as they ran in and out of the shadows, jostling and playing like children just let out of school. But if any of them came near her dish, she would put up her bristles and snarl at them until they went away. All through the summer, Mattie ate and slept. Sometimes in the strawberry season, she walked down to the strawberry bed and lay basking in the sunshine among the sweet-smelling fruit. On moonlit nights, she would wander, her bristles tipped in silver, along the rows of broad beans, but she soon returned to her hutch and went to sleep. The hot August days made her restless, and she sometimes wandered up the garden to the apple trees, where she nosed among the hard golden green apples which had fallen on the ground. But she never ever managed to get at the slugs that lived inside of them. Like all wild animals, a hedgehog, when it knows it's going to die, will crawl away to a quiet place, and so it was with Mattie. One afternoon in early autumn, the woman from the house stood watching a fungus grow on the damp wood of a gate leading into the lane. First there was a dark stain on the wood, then a bubble, which hardened into a little fungus which grew and spread. The woman wondered at the miracle of life. She thought of Mattie and how she, who had once been wild, was now so tame. She saw Mattie coming along the garden path and called her name, but the hedgehog took no notice and continued to walk on along the lane. Swallows were gathering on the telegraph wires, and crows were flittering above the new stubble like pieces of charred paper in the wind. Every golden leaf drifted to the ground spoke of autumn, but Mattie was not preparing to hibernate. She stood for a while in the lane, her old nose scenting the west wind, which blew from the waste and brought with it scent of heather, of pond water, cows and grass. The scents reminded Mattie of frogs and fish, of blackberries and of warm milk oozing from the udders of the cows in the meadow. She remembered Quill and how they had hunted together across the gardens. along the lane and over the waste. Her nostrils twitched and she went on along the lane. Slowly staggering a little, she limped on. Once or twice she overbalanced into the gutter, but she managed to scramble out again and crawled on panting until she reached the rough grass by the old stone wall at the end of the lane. She skirted the meadow where the cows lay. Playboy was at the far end of the meadow, but he did not see her as she crawled under the fence and on to the waste. The grass was very long and thick, and Mattie found it was very hard to crawl through. She came to the lake and rested for a while at the place where long ago the old boar and his mate had found the adder. The kingfisher flashed like blue fire over the water, and a pike lay close to a clump of reeds. She crossed the patch of clay where Quill had fallen into the lake, but the ground was dry and hard and she did not slip. An angler saw her making her purposeful way around the lake. He watched her lift her snout as she caught the scent of leaf mould, and then she crawled into a patch of nettles where she rested for a while. The earth was dark and cool, and the memories came flooding back to her with its remembered odour. She turned her head this way and that, savouring long-forgotten scents. Mattie left the patch of nettles and came to some blueberry bushes. The purple fruit lay squashed on the ground, but the hedgehog took no notice of it. She pushed her way slowly through the grass and the brambles to the centre of the thickest bush. Jays screeched in the hazels, and an otter padded along the edge of the stream. Mattie was very tired. Her chest was almost bursting as she gasped for breath. She came at last to a pile of drifted leaves, deep in the heart of the brambles. The leaves were warm and dry, and they reminded her of the nest in the tree stump where she was born. She burrowed gratefully into them, seeking the comfort of their warmth, and lying half curled up on her side in the dappled shade. She heard the swallows twittering overhead. The sound of their song blended with a gentle buzzing in her ears as the world swung dizzily into eternal night. And that, my besties, is the end of Mattie. I thoroughly enjoyed this story as a child, a young person. I must have been, 10, something like that. I loved it. I read it myself. Obviously at that age I stumbled over some of the bigger words, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading it again. I only read it again at the times when I was reading to you because I wanted to experience it again with you lot. I hope you enjoyed Mattie. Yes, some parts were sad, but the honest truth is that's nature. That really how as nature is, and it is cruel out there, but it is the circle of life. Some die to give life to others, and that's sad, but it's the truth. I have looked for a new book for us, and I will show you that in another video. But now I'm going to go and put these two on, because that's the last of Mattie, I'm sorry to say. But thank you so much for listening, and if you do want me to do another book, let me know, and I'll try and be more on it and get more on. But anyway, thank you ever so much for listening to the Mattie story, and thanks for putting up with me. I love you lots. Kisses from me, and of course kisses from Ellis. Take care.